time to get into the politics of the day. Joining me and Allison, Newsmax contributor John Fund, and RNC national spokesman and director of Black Media Affairs, Paris Dennard. Gentlemen, as you both know, as we all know, it was a violent 4th of July weekend across the country. And of course, in Chicago, 25 miles north in Highland Park, we saw that mass shooting at the Independence Day parade. 6 people killed, at least 30 injured. The identity starting to be released. We're going to be hearing more about that today. But Paris, I want to start with you here. It seems these types of shootings are happening every week, maybe more than that. Should Americans start to change the way they live, even specifically in these major cities? And I mean, this was an affluent suburban suburb, or a suburb of an affluent suburb, of Chicago. This wasn't even in this city. Should Americans kind of start to look over their shoulder more? Should they avoid crowds? What's your take?
Well, I think the whole point of domestic terrorism or any type of terrorism is to try to change the Americans' habits, change what we do to deter us from doing things like going to a parade or going to a shopping mall or going to the grocery store or going to church. I push against that. I think we should come together and we should unite, be vigilant. And we should, you see the old adage, see something, say something, of course, but let's not let these monsters change who we are as Americans, change our customs, change what we do as families, as community. Because, if you live in the south side of Chicago, this is something that occurs every single weekend. And there are many cities, urban cities across the country where violence and criminality of this sort are common. And that's a tragedy. But at the same time, what we need to do as Americans is unite, come together, and not let these terrorists change who we are and our customs, because that's what binds us. What are we at the 4th if we can't have a 4th of July parade with families and friends? Who are we if we can't assemble in church and pray and praise God? These are things that are so important that I hope that we don't allow these evil people to take away from us.
Yeah, Paris, you're so right. John, I want to talk about 2 of the victims' names have been released, because this is what I think we should be talking about, is these innocent men, women, and unfortunately children who were there. So Jackie Sondheim passed away. She was a dedicated worker at her synagogue. And then Nicholas Toledo, 73-year-old grandfather, came to America in the 1980s. He spent his last few days swimming and fishing, doing what he loved best. Obviously, a lot of victims there, these 2 names being released. This is happening way too often. And as Paris said, we should be able to go to a parade. Our kids should be able to go to school. But you've got Illinois. They have one of the toughest gun laws in the country. Why does this keep happening?
Because such laws have their limits. Almost all of these mass shootings, these tragic, horrible mass shootings, take place in what are called gun-free zones, where it is illegal for people to legally carry a firearm. Now, I'm not suggesting this is a solution, but if someone had been present who had undergone firearms training and had a concealed carry permit, which Illinois makes extremely difficult to get, we have seen over and over again that many of those people can prevent such violent assaults from getting out of control, because they shoot the perpetrator very quickly. Many off-duty police officers sometimes carry guns. We've also seen them stop such things. So the current gun laws clearly aren't working. As the mayor said earlier on your show, Illinois has the 6th most toughest gun laws in the country. They haven't worked. At the same time, Illinois has lost 90% of its mental health beds. Now, I don't want to go back to the days when mental health hospitals were hellholes, but clearly some people deserve to be under treatment and observation, and we have lost that capacity.
All right. So, we're going to change gears here just a little bit, Paris. We're hearing more and more about the woke part of society here in America. And, a response an employee had to the Roe v. Wade decision from the Supreme Court, he refused to return to work. He said, I can't work. I'm not going to show up, because he is in, quote, mourning. He said, I'm in mourning due to the attack on people with uteruses in the U.S. Federally guaranteed access to abortion is gone. This gentleman has since been fired. But Paris, what does a Supreme Court ruling have to do with your job? That sounds kind of like maybe a self-imposed, hey, it's a sunny day, it's kind of a Ferris Bueller kind of day, I'm going to take the day off.
Yeah, I guess he was talking about women when he was talking about people with the uterus. I mean, let's just be clear about who we are when it comes to these roles. But I think ultimately this is what the woke left is about. It's just so ludicrous. We should be excited and happy that we have the ability to go to work and to enjoy the blessings of liberty. There are places around the world that you can't work, and you don't have the luxury of working the way we do in this country. And so the idea that someone would try to use the Supreme Court as a means to not go to work is just plain silly. And that's where the woke left is. They're just doing things that just make no sense, and they're just silly. There are a lot of Americans who would love to have been able to get up and have a job and go to work and do that, but they don't have that luxury for various reasons. We need to look at the liberal left and shine the light on them and let the American people see how out of touch, out of sync they really are. And to push these stunts by saying they don't want to work, it's absurd. The person was fired for rightfully so, because in this country, you've got to work, and you can't just not show up because you're mad about something that happened at the Supreme Court.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so from woke to canceled, many celebrities took to Twitter to express their feelings about Independence Day, saying the holiday is canceled. Actress Bette Midler tweeted, "The 4th has been canceled due to shortage of independence. Sincerely, women." And singer Katy Perry tweets out, "Baby, your firework is a 10, but women in the U.S. have fewer rights," and an actual sparkler shaking my head. All right, John, what do you think of this? Do you think celebrities are forgetting that they live in one of the most free nations in the world?
Well, I remind you that almost every European nation has stricter abortion laws than the United States in general has. Now, clearly, there's some differences between a few decades ago and today. I'm not condoning this, but I'm simply saying that in Scandinavia, over 90% of abortions are done with abortion pills, which are sent through the mail. They don't require a prescription. In the United States, it's over 60%. So anyone who thinks that women who want to undergo this lamentable procedure won't have access to it is simply ignoring reality. Both sides on this issue, on the right and on the left, are interested in making a whole lot of money on it by direct mail fundraising and internet fundraising. And I think we need to lower the temperature, lower the emotions, look at the facts here.
All right, well said, John. John and Paris, thanks so much for being here. We're going to continue that conversation